Hey, I'm Randy Younger, New York City's go-to film enthusiast. Every week I dive deep into the world of cinema with special guests from the New York City film scene. Whether I'm interviewing industry insiders or comparing the latest releases, there's always something for every movie lover. Join me as I explore the magic of film and discover what makes these movies unforgettable. Hey guys, Randy Younger here, Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. And with me tonight is a very special guest. We have Mr. Mike Carbonaro, the founder of the Big Apple Comic-Con and also a big comic book maven. So, Mike, welcome to the show.
Mr. Unger, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. This is very exciting. We've got the Big Apple Con coming up in a few weeks. November 23rd, everybody. Make a note.
A week from Saturday, that is.
That's it. It's coming, and it is amazing. I actually had the privilege of attending a couple years back. I got to meet Bob Camp, who created Ren and Snippy.
One of the creators of Ren and Stimpy,
yes.
And he'll be at this show. People can come and chat with him about anything they want to talk about.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
He's still an amazing artist.
Okay.
Does all kinds of stuff. I'm actually got a little project in my head I want to work with him
Oh,
on.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could talk about that later.
Sure.
Cool. But I just want to start from the beginning. Obviously, a big comic book fan. What was the beginning? I assume you were very young. How did it all begin for you?
So there's two beginnings here. So since we're at the start of the Big Apple convention coming up, and then there's the comic book origins. So there's the origin of Big Apple and the origin of my comic book collecting. We'll start with my comic book collecting, since you asked. Always liked comic books since I was a kid. Bought them, would go to the doctors, pick them up here and there. Started collecting them. Have a Superman trunk, which I'll be bringing to the show, my original Pandora's box.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
saved the trunk. I didn't save all the comic books that I collected in the trunk, but I bought and sold them over the years.
But the trunk itself, that's a treasure.
My mom made it for me when I was 7 years old, and she took Superman wallpaper and put it on the trunk. Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely incredible. And then my dad collected stamps, so he would take me with him to the stamp store. And the man who sold stamps also sold comic books. So I started to get in and follow them. At one point, he said, you know what? You buy these comics every once in a while. You come, why don't you buy me out? My dad lent me the money. It was $300. I was 11 years old. I took them to the comic book convention in 1969.
Wow.
Sold them for a profit. I said, Dad, here's your $300 back. We're in business, basically. My dad bought and sold real estate and did all kinds of things, so he showed me how to take care of money, what to do things. My mom and dad supported me all through my life, the good and the bad times, so to speak. And, as they say, that was it. And I've loved comic books. Comic books have saved my life. And I hope they'll save other people's lives. I know they do.
Yes.
So I like doing that. Then, I always bought and sold comic books. I opened a comic book store in Forest Hills, Queens in the 1980s.
Yes. So, funny you should mention that. I am actually a Forest Hills native. Born and raised. I'm still there. Forest Hills holds a very special place in my heart, not just because Peter Parker's from there, but because I'm from there. And I think that store, it was on Continental Avenue.
I was on Austin Street, next to Continental, and we called it Continental Comics.
Was it right by Queens Boulevard?
Right on the corner, right off Queens Boulevard. There was one on Queens Boulevard, too. We opened next to the Midway Movie Theater for a while. For 5 years, 10 years on Austin Street.
So I think
So I was your dealer?
I think I was
a comic book dealer?
At 4 years old, I think I was there.
Oh yeah. I had so many kids come into the store. It was amazing.
It was open around 1989?
We opened from like 1981 through 1995.
Because that was the year of Batmania.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Great story. The Midway Movie Theater.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
It was a fourplex at the time. Now it's 16 or whatever it is. Right. Batman was playing in all four theaters. I was married at the time, and I remember we'd open the comic store, my wife and I, at like 9 or 10, or even 11 o'clock at night. The Batman people, we'd make $1,000, $2,000 just selling T-shirts, buttons, pins, and Batman mania. It really was.
And
everyone had a Batman T-shirt.
I was one of those young customers.
Yeah.
Then
we'd go to the Dublin pub, spend the $2,000.
Well, not good for
the next day.
Not good for a 4-year-old, but I definitely have hazy memories of that corner store.
We had a neon sign of Star Wars in the window with Luke and Darth Vader fighting each other way back then. It was great.
That was such a great store. and then Montasi Comics was there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was
exactly.
a little later
and
on.
Now they're in Manhattan. They have a store on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Montasi Comics.
So
yes.
I really think that the comic book store is a dying art form.
Yeah, well,
You know?
when I had it, it was so special. You know,
Yeah.
you had to go to the comic book store to get your comic books.
Right.
And every Tuesday and Wednesday when it would come out, that was it. There was a line around the block.
Nice.
The kids would be waiting for it. Then Barnes and Noble started getting the comics. Then the online business came about, and then you
Right.
could buy your comics just about it. But when we had it for those dozen plus years, man, it was special. And
I
it
know.
was exciting. And
That's
it was
like-
really, really cool.
That's like a church to some people. They go there.
And there's the segue.
Okay. Yes. No, but
So-
oh yeah. Okay, I gotcha. But no, the comic book store. We need those. We need them back.
You know-
They're scattered throughout the city. But
I'm trying to build a website which has the appeal of a comic book store in it to some way. And I do sales in my backyard in Forest Hills, Queens sometimes, and I hope that is like a comic book
Yeah.
store for people.
because like a lot of the kids today, they don't know what it's like the physical touch of media.
Oh,
It's all
yeah.
online. It's all streaming. And it's just lost. The beauty and the wonder, I think, is lost. You need to feel the paper, the
The
comic book.
wonder of you, comic books, that is, right?
Yes.
So I opened the store, and then at some point the store it wasn't as special anymore. So I decided to do something else, and I got involved in traveling and started to go to conventions all around the country. Did my first San Diego comic book. I'd been going to the New York July 4th convention every year since like 1969. Then I went to the San Diego convention. There's conventions around the country, and then a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, Mike. I know you like to buy comic books. Let's start a business." And we started Neat Stuff Collectibles.
Okay.
Neat Stuff, one of the really early pioneers, and still they morphed now into Sparkle City Comics, one of the best comic book online businesses on eBay. And we just bought forever.
That's awesome.
And we'd walk into a room and say, "I'll buy you out, I'll buy you out, I'll buy you out." It was great.
Now, what is so going back again to?
Then-
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned the church.
Right,
so we
right,
had
right,
the
right.
origin of, what I did with comic books, buying and selling and starting and going into the internet and all that. But now the church basement of the St. Paul the Apostle Church is very, very important to the beginnings of the Big Apple comic book
Okay.
convention.
Okay. Right. That's where it all began in 1996, I believe.
1996, correct. So, I didn't really want to run a comic book convention. I had run a rock and roll convention, a rock and roll amusement park in New York City in the 70s.
Oh, my.
Because I love rock music. And I ran little shows in American Legion halls where I had 20 tables, but they were all mine.
Oh.
And it was easy to deal with.
Okay.
So along comes the comic conventions in New York.
Yeah.
And at the last minute at the New York Coliseum, which is not there anymore, right? Right at Central Park West at that corner over there.
Right.
The show wasn't going to open. And I believe this is a Wednesday afternoon, and we're all gathered about, the dealers and some of the artists, and there's a buzz. No show, no show. It's about noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're like, what's going to happen? So we go and talk to the promoter, and we say, what's happening? He said, well, they're not approving the fire code, so we'll see. Let's go find another space. Little do people know that we spent the next 2 hours looking for another location.
Okay.
And with that promoter, we actually found an open space that day. It was actually the Javits Center. It was available. The promoter called his partner on a payphone. So I remember that, on a payphone. And he said, "No, we're not going to do it." I said, "Well, if you're not going to do something, we're going to take over. We're going to start something."
So this was at Javits.
This was at the, so we left it didn't happen. It
That
wasn't.
didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So we left there. We went back to where the Coliseum was, and I could see almost from the corner a church steeple sticking out like 2 avenues down. It was the St. Paul the Apostle Church.
Literally a sign.
It definitely was a sign. It was a trademark, a sign of something good. So we ran in, and they had this giant auditorium. Is it available? Yes. I threw the money on the table. The guy said it was like a whirlwind. I'll take it.
All
We had
right.
no idea what would happen. We kept promoting it. The internet wasn't as fully integrated into the world as it is now. We were outside handing out postcards, handing out flyers, telling people word of mouth. The show must go on. Church gone. We opened the doors that Saturday morning. It was a whoosh. The people kept rolling. Oh, you saved the day. You became the superheroes.
Yeah.
I did it with a friend of mine who owns one of the owners of Metropolis Comics, Vincent Zerzolo, and another friend, Vincent Guiducci. So a couple of Italians, Carbonaro, Guiducci, and Zerzolo.
I love it.
And we built the Big Apple. At the end of the show, we looked at each other and said, well, what do you want to call it? And I remember Vinny saying, well, we are in the Big Apple. We go, that's it.
Boom.
And
Boom.
Vinny
There
came up with the name. It was great.
And the history is made.
Yeah.
So, and this was a time, 96, when Comic-Cons were not really a thing yet.
Comic-Cons and the whole contests, comic costume contest, the dressing up.
It was really
just beginning.
You would basically just hear about like Star Trek conventions. That's about it. But then you come along and you're one of the pioneers, it seems.
And you know, I started to add everything to it. It was like a soup, like literally a broth. I'd have the Star Wars guest. I'd have a Star Trek guest. We had David Carradine. We had Kristen Bell, Hayden Panettiere, Val Kilmer. You know, all these great artists, Gene Colan, Gil Kane, you know, just amazing artists, Dick Ayers, that would come down to the show. And then I started to put wrestlers, and people were yelling at me. How come you got wrestlers? I said, wrestlers are celebrities.
Yeah.
They're part of the whole appeal.
Right.
And we just kept mixing it. And I believe many other people were inspired and created their conventions, and they told me so that have gone on to be very, very successful. I think including San Diego Comic-Con started adding all the celebrities to their events.
You were the precursor around that time. So not just comic book people, film, TV, cartoons.
I mean, I've loved film as you do
Yes,
all my life, you know.
Awesome.
As Alex would say, I'm cured at the end of Clockwork Orange. Comic books cure me. Just about every day.
I love. What's it like assembling all these great big names in the industry?
Oh, you know, I loved it, and I've done it for now 28 plus years.
Awesome.
And then right about 4 or 5 years ago, it kind of just got. I'd done it so long, and I got kind of, I don't know, not bored, but it just became mundane to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. And things changed, and agents changed. But I've been reinvigorated in the last year or two, and I am going to make Big Apple one of the best, if not the best comic book conventions in the country again.
That is a bold
just like
statement.
It always has been.
Bold statement, sir.
No, and I can back that one up because I'm ready to go. And this show is going to be the beginning of it.
Yes.
And I've done something to back that up that's very interesting. We have VIP tickets for sale.
Okay.
But as well as getting a print for the show, as well as for getting a plastic to put your CGCs in, as well as getting a comic book, as well as getting autographed by Howard Chaykin. You get and VIP admission.
Yeah.
You also get 1 hour, a half hour of two professionals' time. One who's a grader and a presser. The comic books will tell you exactly what you need to do and what to do with your comic books, and a half hour of my time. Okay. You can call me and talk to me about anything, whether you want to produce a comic book convention, whether you want to invest, what you want to do for the next year, you want to build a portfolio, you want to assess or appraise a collection. I will tell you so. You're getting an hour of a super pro time for a VIP ticket. I'm throwing in my 2 cents, which is worth just a few cents more.
That's cool.
Into the mix.
And
it's special.
I know you have right in front of you have a little sample of that. Of
one of the comic books.
Yeah,
yes.
Beautiful.
This is a Captain America number 7.
Love it.
Okay, and the first 10 issues are drawn by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby.
Oh my.
Jack Kirby of Marvel fame, Joe Simon of comic book fame, and him and Jack created the Captain America, and they were always fighting the Nazis on the first the first 4 years of the comic book. Hitler was on the cover of the number 1, and here's a great example. You have the Nazi insignia.
Right.
Batman and Bucky was his partner, and I remember once talking to Joe Simon because you have Batman and Robin, you have all these sidekicks, and I go, Joe, you know, Bucky, everyone got a sidekick. We had to have one for him, you know. So, you know,
that's great.
Captain America is a special character. This is part of the Marvel universe when Marvel was called Timely Comics in 1941. Okay. And this comic book has what you call a purple label, which means has a little restoration. Unrestored, this would be about a $20,000 comic book.
Oh my!
As is, it's about $5,000.
Jeez.
So there you go. But this will be at the show, and there'll be many more examples of that at the comic convention.
How instrumental are you in the grading? and all that?
I'm instrumental in my own way, as I more or less can tell what a comic book will grade between
Right.
a half a grade here or there.
Okay.
But there's a comic company called CGC,
Right.
Certified Guarantee Corporation, and they will grade your comic books for you. And that's the comic book game. You want to
Yeah.
get those comics, and if they're worth it, you want to get them graded. Or
Right.
you can assess and put your own grade on the comic and sell them. And there's lots of money to be made in either direction, however you want to go.
Gotcha. Oh, wow, that's a lot.
I'm going to go back to the church event. I know
Okay.
so many comic book millionaires have been created of the church. And we moved from the church, we moved to the Hotel Pennsylvania, and from the Hotel Pennsylvania to the Metropolitan Pavilion, and then back to a hotel now at the Hotel New Yorker on 34th Street and 8th Avenue, an iconic New Yorker, the New Yorker, a very iconic logo
The
that
Daily Planet, as you call it, I believe.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Very similar. It has that gothic look to it, and it was.
Yes.
It came out of the late 1920s, early Deco,
yeah.
1930s period of architecture in New
Beautiful.
York City.
Beautiful.
And that's our new home of Big Apple, and will be our home for a while until we expand out of that.
All right.
And that's my goal, to build it so that we'll be bursting out of the seams of the New Yorker Hotel,
I can tell-
taking it to the next level.
I love the enthusiasm. That's very good. The ambition is very alive in you.
Yes, I've always been ambitious, sometimes overly so, but I keep trying. There
It's
you
fine,
go.
man.
Right?
Do it. If it suits you, keep going. Keep going.
And it's just you mentioned something about the old comic book stores. I'm going to do something at the next show next year.
Yeah.
It's 2020. Too soon to do it now, but for November 22nd, 2025, and we're already talking about it.
Yes.
I'm going to create an old school comic book store. I'm going to make a room, and it's your inspiration, Mr. Unger.
Well, thank you,
yes,
sir. I
I'm going to
appreciate
make
that.
one of the rooms just like the old, and we're going to have tons of comic books on sale for cover price and all of that. What a great idea.
If you could replicate the store from Austin Street.
Forest Hills? Yes.
Oh,
well, it was very tiny. You had to
I know.
walk in and it had baseball cards in the back of it,
I
right? That was
remember.
the cool part.
It just had rows and rows of cards and comics.
And we'd give you a free plastic bag with every comic book.
Wow.
And I'll tell you something interesting.
Yeah.
One of our partners in association with this convention is Crash Media,
Okay.
who happened to be Little Nemo Comic Book Shop,
Okay.
who was the other comic book shop in Forest Hills, our friendly competitors, and now we're friends, and they're helping me produce this convention together.
35 years in the making.
Yes.
I love it.
And they're bringing a special guest called Al Kahn, who
Al
was the
Kahn.
creator of Pokemon. Like the Kevin Feige, how do you pronounce
I
it
think it's Feige.
exactly? Okay.
Feige, yeah.
There you go, right? Of the Pokemon world. And we're
Wow.
giving him a special award at the convention.
Oh.
So he'll be there if you guys want to. He'll be there with a Q&A, and he can answer questions and talk about the real beginnings, the fiduciary and the intricate business dealings of the Pokemon world and how it started.
Nice.
And you can ask Al all the questions you want. So he's never been to a show
cool.
before,
I
so
may
that's
have-
exciting.
I may want to pick his brain, actually.
He's probably got he's got enough of it left, and you can pick it for
Nice.
sure.
All right. So now, since this is a movie review show, I wanted to get your take on the current state of superhero movies over the past 20 years.
Does that mean I've had to unwatch them all?
Yeah.
I did, so it's okay.
No. Well, that's the thing I really don't like about current movies, because you got to watch 30 more movies for homework to be caught up with this one. What are your general feelings right now?
Just like everybody, I fell into it when the Marvel superheroes were going to start a team.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when they did that, all I was waiting for was them to say, Avengers Assemble. And it took them 4 and 5 Avengers movies to get to that.
I know.
And they finally did, and it was great. And it built to such an apex.
Yes.
And then it kind of mellowed out a little bit, and it's just starting to come back. I'm real jazzed about seeing the Fantastic Four movie, because that's been my first superhero love in the Marvel world.
Great
and
cast.
all of that.
Really great cast.
I don't critique. I love the stuff. I love to enjoy the comic books. It's my business. So
Yeah.
the better the comic books movies do, the better it is for us.
Favorite of all time? Favorite superhero movie?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I'm going to tell you a favorite story that I've got. It's about my dad.
Oh.
So this is somewhere in 2016, isn't it? There were about 21 Marvel movies, and they had a complete marathon
Okay.
of every Marvel movie, and it was at the the Lowe's Lincoln Square.
Okay.
So I go to my dad. He's 80-something years old, right? I go, Dad, I'm getting up. I'm going to the movies for a few days. He goes, a few days? Where are you going? I'm coming with you.
Oh.
He goes, St. Joe's on Smith. Starts at 9 in the morning. It lasted... Okay, so by the time that things go, or it started that evening and started, so I said, Dad, I got to go. He goes, no, I'm staying. Okay, I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow. He stayed. I left. Next day I go back. Come on, you want to go home? No, the Hulk is coming. The Hulk's coming. I remember that. By the end of it, on the third day, there were 3 people left, and he was one of the winners who's got a gold medal as the prize, who stayed to watch every Marvel movie.
God bless him.
That was great.
Wait, when was this?
Oh, 2016, 15,
Wow,
was it?
wow.
Yeah, there were about 21 or 22 movies at that time.
I think Age of Ultron was 2015.
That was just about there.
Okay.
It might have been for that movie, the one that they did that. So there you go.
He stayed for all those movies?
He stayed for all those movies,
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
See, my dad doesn't even watch superhero movies. Let alone go to a marathon. That's insane. Well, good for him.
You know, it's not a superhero movie, but I just went to see what movie that moves me so much. And I would call this past the superhero movie genre into real films. And I would consider this one of the great films of last year, Godzilla -1.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I cried again from seeing it. And added, tears of empathy for the film, the family, the story, the monster, all of it.
Yeah, and it won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects.
And they're coming back with another film.
Yeah, sure.
Out of that milieu, is that the word, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Of kaiju figures.
Yeah, that realm.
A monster realm, and I'm really jazzed about seeing that as well. So that's, if you got to call a movie that I like the most, I'd say that was it. And then they're all great. The first Iron Man was a great movie. He's clunking there, making the armor in the cave. Making that original armor. That was just wonderful. And of course, Deadpool Wolverine was funny. I'm not sure if it's actually really part of the Marvel universe, in my opinion, because it was just too funny to be out there. But it was, nevertheless. So I'm always looking to what that next one is, and I think the Fantastic Four movie is going to be my favorite. I hope so. I'm really looking forward to that.
I'll be honest. So for me, it was the first exposure to the superhero, in general, superhero, fandom. Batman '89. We mentioned a little bit earlier. That's what brought me into it. Then Batman Returns. Then Batman Forever kind of ruined it a little bit for me. And then in 2002, we got Tobey Maguire's in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That kind of revitalized my interest. And of course, he's from Forest Hills, as I mentioned earlier as well. So,
there's a film, I remember X-Men 2, I think it was, and it opened in the White House with the Nightcrawler popping in and out. And I remember seeing that and going, wow, that first opening few minutes. I think, was it Bryan Singer that directed that one?
Yeah, he did the first
two. Yeah, the second one. Yeah. That second one I remember just popping out at me. And then this isn't a superhero movie, but Terminator 2.
Oh, my God.
When I saw that, and when I saw the Terminator 2 walking through the
bars.
Iron bars. And I said, there's the Silver Surfer. And I remember saying that to myself. And to me, it just started everything clicking in my mind.
And then 20 years later, they did the Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four 2, and it was totally terrible.
Yeah, and we've had all the artists from all these comic books, whether it was Gene Colan who did the Silver Surfer, or one of the Buscemi's who's come to the show, Ron Garney who was there, David Cassidy, John Cassidy, who just passed away, one of the artists, unfortunately, who did Batman. I mean, Val Kilmer, who was Batman, came to the show a few times. David Carradine and his whole story about Superman being an alien and Kill Bill. Between Bills, he actually came to Big Apple conventions.
Oh, that's funny.
So the film world has been a very important part of the comic book world.
And also the TV world. I see you have John O'Hurley, who played Jay Peterman from Seinfeld, my favorite sitcom ever.
He has an amazing career beyond his Seinfeld career. He's been on Broadway and Song and Dance. He's been, I believe... hundreds of times he was in the role of Chicago, the Razzle Dazzle Man.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah.
Was he the Richard Gere?
The Richard Gere character, yes.
He's also done a bunch of game shows.
Absolutely incredible guy, and I've got a couple of ideas I'm going to be chatting with him about, I hope. Him and I are going to be doing a little video to tell people, come on down to Big Apple. Don't forget about it, a week from this Saturday. And talking about dates, Saturday, November the 23rd. It's
Yes.
right before the start of the holiday season. As a promoter, you're always looking for that perfect date to run a show because you have to make sure that the hotel or the venue has the right space and that it's not running up against another show that's always that people are always aware of. So we've kind of tabled Big Apple to be near the end of the year, and we always could find that date during the holiday. And this is right at the start of the season, and I love it.
Perfect.
And right now we're booked for the next 5 years at this hotel at that Saturday before Thanksgiving. And I'm really pumped about that date.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that people will see it come in, start spending your money early on toys and comic books and collectibles and come around and enjoy the ambiance of the show.
Right, of course. And you know what? I just had the idea, this should not be just once a year.
Yeah.
You should expand a little.
Well, let me get it to the point where people are walking or are standing on the corner all around the block first, and then we can build on that.
All right.
I want to get it back to those days when they when they were roaming around the corner on 59th Street and Columbus, and there was like piled, 6 people high and going right around the corner, and
Nice.
big giant droves coming in. But we're going to get it back to that.
Sounds good.
And, just for what can you see at this comic book convention?
Yeah, sure.
So,
aside from the comics,
well,
obviously.
the comics themselves are something to see. You can see all the different ones, but there's not just comics. There's
No.
lots of toys. There's lots of games. There's lots of, things you can invest in. And there's Pokemon, and there's cards, sports cards, non-sports cards, all
I
kinds
love
of them. There's an artist room that we have, and the artist room has a myriad of artists. Like, I think it's almost 75 or 100 different artists
Okay.
doing different things, whether they draw comics, whether they do graphic novels, whether they write, or whether, they've created Howard Chaykin, the man who drew the first Star Wars comic book.
Nice.
And
So it's basically
we'll be there.
it's a hub.
It's a hub.
It's a hub for all things
You know.
artistic, creative.
We have a martial arts movie starting at 10:30 in the morning going along with that.
Okay.
Because that's part of the celebrity world.
First I'm hearing about that.
Yep. We have a costume contest for kids that I'm excited about at
that's
1
nice.
o'clock, and I'm going to be giving every kid a prize. Come dressed as your favorite superhero, super pokey superhero, super Pokemon, super whatever you want to be. Not so super, carrot top, whatever you want. That'd be great. I want the kids to enjoy themselves.
And any junior Ghostbusters out there, feel free to stop by and be judged as well.
Junior Ghostbusters,
yes,
I like
Of
that.
course. So, backing up a little bit, you mentioned toys. I'm a huge action figure aficionado. I still collect. I'm turning 40 next year, and I still collect.
Nice, excellent. That's great.
What type?
They make movies about that.
I know. Maybe I should. I have a second calling. No, but what's your experience with the toy world?
I've loved toys all my life. Here's a good toy story. When I was a kid, talk about spoiled, right? My dad went to a toy auction. Okay, I think I was 5, so 1961, 62. He comes home, and my mom's there. He goes, "What'd you buy at the auction?" She says, "It's coming." They call them absolute auctions. He bought the whole auction. It was a truckload of toys. They put them up in the attic, and whenever I wanted anything, I was 4, I'd say, "Ack, ack." And I had all the toys I wanted.
Oh, my
for
God.
most of the time until we moved, till my dad kind of lost the business that he had created, the carting business that my relatives had created to the mob, so to speak, in a gambling game, and then had to restart his whole career as a fuller brush man later on.
All right.
So that attic didn't exist no more. We moved to an apartment building in Jackson Heights, Queens, and that's where I went to school and started everything, and comic books became a very important part of my life starting there.
It. Beautiful, beautiful.
So toys have always been something I've loved, and toys inspire all of us because they're physical, manifestations.
Some of your very first memories are in plastic.
And we're going to try, I like that, Memories in Plastic.
Oh, that's a good title.
Even the comic
Yes,
books,
everything,
right?
everything.
We're going to be creating a toy for Big Apple. Next year, we're going to have a special apple, and it's going to be a really nice apple with a special magic trick to it.
Okay.
And there'll be, it's going to be very interesting. I've been working on that.
Does it have like a little cape on it?
It might pop out.
Yeah. I like that. I
my
think-
scarf, right?
Yes.
This is my magic cape.
I love this.
This gives me my superpowers.
Very Marvel.
It's an
centric.
X-Men. It's a Nicole Miller. It's a high-end fashion, so to speak. Nicole Miller super scarf.
Was that
and I've rebought this scarf probably 20 times over the last 25 years.
I would have thought that'd be like a custom-made scarf.
No. This was actually, I saw this once and I go, oh my gosh, there's actually a vest and a tie that goes along with this as well.
Lovely. I like that tie idea.
So
I would like
pretty
to have
cool.
that.
But yeah, action figures and toys, and there'll be lots of that at the show.
Cool.
And we're trying to make a calendar which has action figures in the theme for next year's event as well.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Oh, I love it. So, you know, you obviously have more and more people come every year to the con.
This one's going to be crowded. Ticket sales are real all the way up. And don't forget those VIP tickets because you get an hour of super professional service in the comic book, toy, collectible world. Whatever you need to know,
Right.
I will tell you. My friend will tell you how to grade it, what the grades are, what you should do with your comic books. You cannot, as the saying goes, you can't beat it. This is a one-time only special package.
Now, Mike, here's a question for you.
I don't think I can answer it. No, maybe I can.
You get more. You get more and more people every year. What do you hope audiences take away from the con?
You know, it's just the real thing, and I've said this all, and at some point I go, you know what, I'm listening to my own shtick. Is it real? And it is real. I realized that during the pandemic, how much I missed the comic book convention. I missed the camaraderie of my friends, my competitor friends, and all of that stuff that went on when having a comic book convention. If someone comes up to me and says, hey, Mike, I had a really good time at the show.
Right.
That's all.
Boom.
Just like when they go to a movie, you come out, you have a great, you know, whether you like the beginning, the ending, the middle of it, whatever it was.
I think
that's kind of how I feel, and that makes me feel like I did something positive.
I think that the best thing about leaving a movie is talking to your friends about it.
Sure.
Kind of. That's what my show is basically, evaluating movies.
Standing outside those moments of reflection upon your last 2 hours.
Of course.
Right?
It's the best part.
Or more.
All right, so we just have like a minute left. I just wanted to see.
Only a minute? Let's rock it.
We could do this all night long.
Okay,
I know
we'll do
that.
the quick quiz. Comic book minute. Come on. Some jazz it up. Let's go.
No, it's just one big question.
Okay.
Are there any other projects you're working on currently that you can discuss?
Yes. And I can't discuss them, but yes.
I know there's a lot going on.
It's going to be something about the outer space of the world.
All right.
Of comics and collectibles and toys and conventions. No, not a convention in space, but maybe. Who knows?
That's
you never know, right?
That's a good movie idea. Convention in space, something goes wrong, kind of like a Die Hard.
Yeah, it always goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, with comic event, I mean, I've had hurricanes happen, union problems, non-union problems, guests that couldn't appear at the last minute, people we had to go send the car out, people we had to find in their hotel. I mean, amazing stories over the years, which we can do part 2 if you like. All about the inner workings of the cons.
I like that. We'll talk more, I guess.
And only New York. We have never left New York City. That's why it's called Big Apple and Big Apple, BACC.com. And I love New York. I love Big Apple. And I love talking to people under the radar.
Oh, and I like talking to you, sir. So, Mike Carbo, November 23rd is a convention, Big Apple Comic Con, and is that at the New Yorker Hotel?
The New Yorker Hotel, 34th Street and 8th Avenue.
So, guys, stop on by. It's going to be a great time.
Under the marquee
of
the New Yorker at the Big Apple Comic Con.
Perfect.
Here we are.
I'll see you there.
Same.
All right, and we'll see you there.
We will, won't we?
Yes.
Come on down.
All right, guys. I'm Randy Unger. This has been Under the Radar, bringing movies, comics together, one frame at a time, one page at a time.
Or a panel.
Panel. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Take care, guys.